Have you ever stopped to question why, despite your efforts, the life you desire continues to elude you? Not superficially, not in passing, but at the marrow-deep level, have you asked yourself why your mind wavers when the world demands decisiveness? Why doubt gnaws at your conviction? Why you betray your own potential with hesitation? Most will answer with excuses, blame circumstance, or surrender to the illusion that success is merely the reward of chance. But you, if you are listening, if you are willing to confront the silent laws that govern your mind, must understand this: nothing external can deliver what the internal has not first claimed. Your mind, your beliefs, your faith, these are the crucibles in which every victory is forged. To unlock your hidden potential, you must first recognize that faith is not merely spiritual sentiment or wishful thinking. It is the engine of creation, the force that transforms thought into reality, the invisible hand that shapes every outcome you will ever experience. Faith is not a vague hope that someday things will improve. Faith is deliberate, commanding, unwavering. It is certainty born not from evidence you can see, but from conviction you cannot deny. Imagine a sculptor standing before a raw block of marble, seeing within it a form that others cannot perceive. That vision, that unshakable certainty in the unseen, is the essence of faith. Without it, the chisel of your actions will falter, and your potential will remain dormant, locked behind walls your own fear has built. It is faith that gives persistence its teeth, that steels your resolve when adversity strikes, that whispers in the moments of despair, rise, act, endure, achieve. The man who lacks faith may labor endlessly, but he will never extract from life the substance of his greatness. He will carve shadows where solid achievement could have been. Yet how few understand this law, and how easily we deceive ourselves. Consider the countless who abandon their dreams at the first whisper of difficulty, mistaking their fear for prudence, their hesitation for careful calculation. They fail to see that every formidable challenge, every obstacle that seems insurmountable, is but a mirror reflecting the absence of faith within. Every thought of self-doubt, every moment of uncertainty is a crack in the foundation of your inner citadel. And what is hidden potential but a reservoir of power, imagination, and possibility, waiting only for the key of belief to release it? The law is simple. Whatever your mind can conceive and believe, you can achieve, but belief is not passive. It is a force that must be cultivated, commanded, and maintained. To understand faith is to understand its intimate relationship with desire. A man or woman who lacks burning desire will struggle to summon faith in the face of challenge. Desire is the spark. Faith is the fire that consumes doubt. Desire alone is insufficient. It will flicker and fade under the weight of life's trials. Faith transforms desire into certainty. It is the bridge between thought and reality, between the invisible conception of success in the mind and the visible manifestation of achievement in the world. And here is the paradox few grasp. The mind cannot distinguish between what is imagined with faith and what is experienced with certainty. What you fully believe to be possible, your mind will treat as real. What you doubt, your mind will sabotage, no matter your skill, no matter your effort. This is why Napoleon Hill insisted that faith must be fortified through deliberate practice. It is not enough to hope for success. You must immerse yourself in the mental conviction that you are already capable, already deserving, already the person who commands the results you seek. Every affirmation you repeat, every thought you nurture, every visualization you engage in becomes a seed planted in the fertile soil of the subconscious. The subconscious, uncritical and relentless, obeys the dominant thoughts impressed upon it. Doubt and fear will grow like weeds if left unattended. Faith and purpose must be cultivated with vigilance daily until they become instinct, until they become the lens through which all decisions, actions, and perceptions are filtered. Faith is also inseparable from action. Passive belief is a chimera. The law of action and reaction demands that conviction be expressed, that thought be transmuted into persistent, disciplined effort. The man who prays for success while refusing to move, who cultivates faith in theory but not in practice, will find himself imprisoned by the very laws he misunderstands. Faith does not excuse inaction. It compels action. It is a lighthouse guiding you through the storm, not a charm to shield you from the tempest. Each step taken in faith strengthens the next. Each deliberate act of courage reinforces the architecture of your inner certainty. Consider fear, the most insidious adversary of faith. Fear manifests in countless forms: fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of poverty, fear of ridicule. But they are all symptoms of the same core deficiency, the absence of unshakable belief in oneself and one's purpose. Fear is a contagion that spreads when the mind is weak, when the will is indecisive. But faith acts as the antidote, a force that saturates thought with courage and defiance, rendering the voice of fear mute. Faith does not deny danger. It refuses to surrender to it. It perceives obstacles not as threats, but as opportunities to prove the strength of one's conviction, to exercise persistence, to demonstrate the power of disciplined thought made manifest. Faith also nourishes imagination, the engine of creation. The mind that believes can envision solutions invisible to the doubting eye. Ideas, plans, innovations, opportunities. These appear first in the theater of the mind, where faith alone can recognize their value. Without belief, imagination is a wandering child, lost in a forest of uncertainty. With faith, imagination becomes a disciplined soldier, executing the strategies conceived in the inner mind with precision and persistence. Success, Hill teaches, begins not in the marketplace, the office, or the world of external events, but in the secret chambers of thought, where faith and imagination conspire to shape destiny before the first outward action is taken. Faith demands decisiveness, another law of mental mastery. Indecision is the enemy of progress, the poison that corrodes potential. The mind that hesitates cannot command reality. It is the mind that acts with certainty, that aligns belief and purpose with immediate, resolute decisions, that begins to convert potential into results. Every moment of hesitation feeds doubt. Every decisive action, no matter how small, reinforces faith. Here lies one of the most hidden truths of success. Faith is strengthened most through the courage to act, the audacity to choose, and the discipline to follow through relentlessly. D. Oh, not mistake faith for arrogance or certainty of outcome. Faith is neither blind nor naive. It is conscious, deliberate, and disciplined. It recognizes the realities of effort, struggle, and sacrifice. It does not promise that life will be easy. It guarantees that the mind, once properly aligned, will bend reality toward its will. Every obstacle becomes a teacher, every setback a lesson, every failure a stepping stone for the mind, fortified by belief. Faith converts adversity into advantage, doubt into insight, and potential into mastery. And so the path is clear, if arduous. To unlock your hidden potential, you must cultivate faith as a deliberate, commanding force. You must bind it to your desires, reinforce it with action, shield it from fear, and nurture it with imagination and discipline. The moment you begin to truly believe in your capacity, the invisible forces of the mind begin to align. The universe, impartial and consistent, responds to the signals of certainty and conviction you radiate. Potential, dormant and unseen, rises, and success, previously distant, begins to take shape in the world outside your mind. Ask yourself again in the quiet and unguarded moments of reflection, do I truly believe in my ability to achieve what I desire, or have I been entertaining illusions of hope while secretly harboring doubt? The answer will define the trajectory of your life, for faith is not a gentle companion but a powerful sovereign. It demands allegiance. It demands action. And in its presence, what was once hidden is revealed. What was once impossible becomes inevitable. And the mind, having conquered itself, becomes the master of destiny. Faith, once recognized, demands expression. It cannot linger in abstraction. It must be impressed upon every thought, every word, every action, until it saturates the subconscious and governs the visible world. The law of autosuggestion, which Napoleon Hill describes with precision, is the method by which faith becomes a living force within the mind. The thoughts you repeat, the beliefs you internalize, the affirmations you whisper with conviction, these are not mere exercises of the imagination. They are instruments of transformation. The mind, relentless and uncritical, absorbs these impressions and begins to act in accordance with them, aligning invisible mental forces with your conscious purpose. Faith is strengthened by such deliberate repetition until the subconscious no longer questions but executes, until belief becomes certainty and certainty becomes a driving engine for action. Consider the mind as a fertile soil capable of producing abundance or barrenness depending on what is sown. Each thought repeated in faith is a seed planted in this soil, a blueprint for eventual manifestation. Thoughts of doubt, hesitation, and fear are weeds that strangle potential before it can emerge. Thoughts rooted in faith, discipline, and burning desire yield a harvest of achievement. The individual who understands this law does not merely hope, he instructs his mind daily, affirming his ability, visualizing his success, feeling in advance the reality of what he intends to achieve. This is the science of faith in action, the deliberate programming of the inner mind, so that invisible forces align to make the impossible inevitable. Yet faith alone, left unaccompanied by persistence, is insufficient. The world tests the mind, challenging belief at every turn. Persistence is the crucible in which faith proves itself. It is not a matter of talent, education, or circumstance. It is the sustained application of effort toward a clearly defined purpose, guided by belief and disciplined thought. Every setback, every obstacle, every disappointment becomes not a reason for surrender, but a signal to reinforce determination, to refine strategy, to deepen faith. Persistent action rooted in conviction transforms potential into measurable results, bridging the chasm between mental conception and external reality. Without persistence, faith becomes fragile, susceptible to erosion by fear, fatigue, and the inevitable trials of life. With persistence, faith becomes an unyielding force, impervious to the turbulence of circumstance, commanding the world to respond. Faith, persistence, and autosuggestion are intertwined with the mastery of self-discipline. Without control over the mind and its impulses, belief is shallow, fleeting, and easily corrupted. Self-discipline is the guardian of faith, the regulator that ensures actions align with purpose, that thoughts remain constructive, and that desires are channeled toward tangible outcomes. The individual who achieves mastery over self is not at the mercy of fleeting emotions or external conditions. He governs his internal state, orchestrating thought, emotion, and action with precision. Every decision, every habit, every daily ritual becomes a deliberate reinforcement of faith and purpose. The battle for success is fought first within the mind, and without discipline, the mind cannot prevail. Fear, the silent destroyer of potential, manifests most often in hesitation and inaction. The fear of failure, the fear of criticism, the fear of the unknown, these are barriers erected by the mind itself, walls that obscure the pathway to achievement. Faith is the antidote, but it requires more than passive conviction. It demands confrontation. Each time you act despite fear, each time you choose purpose over comfort, you reinforce the neural pathways that make courage habitual, that train the subconscious to favor action over avoidance. The mind becomes a weapon, its direction determined by belief and disciplined effort, its potential unlocked through deliberate confrontation of every shadow that threatens to obscure it. Success is the reward of those who refuse to surrender to fear, who press forward with unshakable faith even when the outcome is uncertain. Imagination, often dismissed as fanciful or impractical, is in fact the architect of every achievement. The individual who masters faith channels imagination with precision, visualizing not only the end result, but the process, the actions, the obstacles, and the solutions. Imagination guided by faith is not idle dreaming, it is a rehearsal of success, a mental simulation that trains the subconscious to recognize possibilities invisible to the doubting eye. Through imagination, the mind anticipates challenges, discovers opportunities, and engineers strategies before circumstances demand them. The combination of faith and disciplined imagination enables the individual to act with foresight, creativity, and unwavering confidence, transforming uncertainty into a controlled field of opportunity. Decision is the measure of mastery. Indecision is the refuge of the uncommitted, the concession of those who have not yet forged faith into certainty. The mind trained in the principles of belief and discipline recognizes that hesitation is lethal. Each delay compounds doubt, strengthens fear, and undermines potential. Conversely, decisiveness reinforces faith. To decide is to commit, to declare to the subconscious, to the universe, and to oneself that success is not negotiable, that achievement is inevitable, that no obstacle will divert the trajectory of effort aligned with purpose. Napoleon Hill emphasized that decisiveness, exercised consistently, is a defining characteristic of those who convert hidden potential into extraordinary accomplishment. The invisible forces that govern destiny are always present, operating beneath the surface of perception, indifferent to belief or ignorance. Yet the individual who cultivates faith becomes a conductor of these forces, thoughts repeated with certainty, actions taken with persistence, imagination exercised with discipline, and decisions made with conviction. All resonate within the unseen, shaping circumstances, attracting resources, and orchestrating events toward the realization of purpose. The world responds not merely to effort, but to the internal state that guides that effort. Hidden potential is not unlocked by luck, nor by external validation, nor by fleeting inspiration. It is activated through the disciplined application of faith, mentally and emotionally sustained, until it becomes a visible, undeniable force in the world. Faith also cultivates resilience. Life is a continuous series of tests, and only those whose belief is absolute endure long enough to harvest the fruits of their effort. The mind strengthened by faith does not crumble when expectation is unmet. It does not recoil at criticism or setback. It persists, adapts, and recalibrates, guided always by certainty of purpose. Such resilience is not mere stubbornness. It is the manifestation of invisible mental law, a conscious alignment of thought and action with the unseen currents that govern reality. Without faith, the individual succumbs to temporary defeat. With faith, every difficulty becomes a tool, every trial an instrument of growth, every failure a stepping stone to mastery. Consider the interplay between faith and purpose. Purpose gives direction to belief, focusing its energy, refining its aim, and providing a target for the persistent exercise of mind and will. Without definiteness of purpose, faith dissipates, scattered in multiple directions, ineffective and diluted. With purpose, faith becomes a laser, concentrating potential into a single trajectory, cutting through obstacles, piercing doubt, and manifesting outcomes previously inconceivable. Success is the alignment of faith, purpose, and disciplined action, and this alignment occurs first within before it ever appears without. Hidden potential, once dormant, becomes visible in proportion to the intensity of faith applied to purpose through persistent action. Faith, persistence, self-discipline, decision, and imagination are not separate skills to be acquired in isolation. They are interdependent forces, each reinforcing the others, creating a synergistic effect greater than the sum of its parts. Neglect one, and the structure weakens, strengthen all, and the individual transcends ordinary limitation. The mastery of these forces is not instantaneous. It is forged through deliberate practice, relentless attention, and the willingness to confront internal resistance with courage and unwavering conviction. It is a lifelong apprenticeship in the art of self-mastery, in which the individual becomes both sculptor and marble. Architect and foundation, mind and action unified in pursuit of achievement. Every thought you harbor, every choice you make, every habit you cultivate either reinforces your faith or erodes it. The unseen currents of mental law are unforgiving. They respond not to desire alone, but to disciplined, repeated, and faithful expression of belief in thought and action. Your hidden potential will remain latent if your mind is occupied with doubt, indecision, and fear. It will emerge only when you take full responsibility for your inner state, impressing upon the subconscious the unassailable conviction that you are capable, deserving, and destined to achieve. Ask yourself now, in the silence of reflection, have I done enough to cultivate faith in myself, to program my mind with certainty, to persist relentlessly, to act decisively, to discipline thought, to envision, and to endure? Or have I allowed hesitation, fear, and distraction to dominate the unseen architecture of my potential? The difference between stagnation and success is measured in the consistent exercise of faith applied through mental and physical action. The moment you take control of these invisible forces, the moment belief governs thought and action, Your hidden potential begins to emerge, reshaping the world around you in proportion to the strength of conviction you cultivate within. The battlefield of success is not in the streets, the offices, or the marketplace. It is inside the mind, and there, the fierce adversary is fear. Fear manifests in endless disguises: fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown, fear of mediocrity. It whispers doubts in the moments of silence, plants hesitation in the midst of decisive opportunity, and erodes the foundations of faith without notice. Most flee from fear, attempting to avoid it, yet avoidance only strengthens its grip. To unlock hidden potential, you must confront fear directly, dissect it with reason, and dominate it with the unwavering certainty of belief. True mastery begins not with external triumph, but with internal conquest, where every fear is recognized, understood, and neutralized. Faith is the weapon against this invisible enemy, but it is sharpened through action, each deliberate act performed. Despite fear, reinforces the neural pathways of courage, teaching the mind that doubt is a lie and uncertainty is a challenge to be met rather than a prison to inhabit. Consider the mind as a muscle. It strengthens only when resistance is applied. The weight of fear is the resistance that builds the strength of faith. Indecision in the face of danger is the soul's surrender. Decisive action, guided by belief and purpose, is the assertion of mastery over circumstance and self. Those who have achieved extraordinary success are not those who never felt fear. They are those who recognized it, faced it, and moved through it with unwavering conviction. Imagination, when combined with faith, becomes the laboratory of destiny. In the mind of the believer, obstacles are not fixed. They are experiments in strategy, trials in creativity, exercises in mental engineering. The man who fears scarcity will always encounter it. The mind that envisions opportunity, possibilities, and solutions while grounded in faith begins to shape reality in anticipation of action. Faith transforms imagination into a precise instrument, a tool that conceives outcomes beyond the perception of the untrained mind. In this inner theater, every scenario is tested, every fear confronted, every plan rehearsed, until uncertainty is transformed into controlled opportunity. The invisible laws respond not to hesitation, but to the clarity and intensity of thought sustained by belief. Decision, often underestimated in its potency, is the hinge on which destiny swings. Indecision invites doubt, strengthens fear, and allows the currents of circumstance to dictate your life. To decide is to exercise sovereignty over self, to command the mind and direct the flow of action toward defined purpose. Each choice made with faith and discipline reverberates through the subconscious, reinforcing certainty and aligning invisible forces. Napoleon Hill observed that the habit of decisiveness separates the ordinary from the extraordinary, the tentative from the determined, the hesitant from the invincible. Without decision, hidden potential remains trapped, imprisoned by the vacillation of the uncommitted mind. Persistence, when anchored in faith and disciplined by decision, becomes unstoppable. It is not mere endurance, but the intelligent, unrelenting application of effort toward a clearly defined goal, regardless of temporary failure, criticism, or circumstance. The persistent mind converts resistance into guidance, setbacks into insight, and obstacles into stepping stones. Success is rarely instantaneous. It is the product of repeated, focused action sustained over time, each act reinforcing faith, each achievement proving the reliability of the inner laws. Those who abandon effort at the first challenge betray the subtle but absolute rules governing potential. They confuse temporary defeat with finality, and in doing so leave the treasure of their abilities undiscovered, their promise unfulfilled. The hidden forces that govern destiny are indifferent to ignorance, yet responsive to alignment. Thoughts impressed upon the subconscious with faith, repeated through disciplined autosuggestion, reinforced by persistent action, imagination, and decision, begin to orchestrate circumstances that reflect the mental state of the individual. Faith, then, is not passive, it is directive. It instructs, organizes, and compels the invisible energies of mind and universe to collaborate in the realization of purpose. Those who ignore these laws may labor, struggle, and toil, yet never produce extraordinary results, for their internal machinery is misaligned. fractured by doubt and fear. Those who master these laws harness power beyond. Perception, drawing from the unseen and commanding the visible. Self-discipline becomes the regulator, the guardian, the force, ensuring that faith and persistence are not wasted in distraction or impulse. The mind untrained, ungoverned, or indulgent becomes a liability. It dissipates energy, reinforces doubt, and permits fear to dictate action. Discipline, when rigorously applied, focuses the mind like a lens, concentrating belief, desire, and action on a single, powerful trajectory. Every habit, every routine, every repeated thought acts as reinforcement of the inner structure of faith. Through discipline, you build not only competence but invulnerability, the ability to maintain purpose and certainty even amid chaos, criticism, or opposition. Faith demands not only mental rehearsal but emotional engagement. Thought alone is insufficient. Feeling amplifies conviction. The mind that imagines without passion is weak. The mind that believes without emotion is untested. Engage the senses in visualization. Feel the victory, the accomplishment, the fulfillment of your purpose. The subconscious responds more to emotion than to reason. Passion fused with faith sets into motion the invisible currents that shape circumstances. The individual who experiences mentally and emotionally the reality of success before it manifests externally commands forces that remain hidden to those who think in abstraction alone. The inner dialogue is equally critical. Every word spoken to oneself is an impression upon the subconscious. Doubt whispered repeatedly becomes a chain. Affirmations repeated with feeling become wings. Guard your internal conversation as fiercely as you would guard action in the external world. Monitor every phrase, every judgment, every thought. Faith requires vigilant cultivation. Every incursion of negativity or fear must be recognized and neutralized. The mind is constantly constructing the architecture of your destiny. What you impress upon it consciously and emotionally will determine what emerges visibly. To dominate fear is to dominate circumstance. Life will always present challenges. Events will not yield to desire alone. The question is not whether difficulty will arise, but whether your mind, trained in faith and persistence, decision and imagination, will respond with unwavering control. Each challenge faced with certainty strengthens the inner machinery. Each victory over hesitation reinforces potential. Each confrontation with fear hammers the foundations of belief into unshakable strength. Hidden potential is revealed through the deliberate act of confronting the unknown, pressing forward despite doubt, and refusing to surrender the sovereignty of the mind to circumstance. Reflect now on your own life. Which fears have you allowed to dictate your trajectory? Which doubts have you nurtured instead of confronting them with faith? Which opportunities have passed while hesitation held sway? Every moment of surrender to fear is a lost opportunity to impress the mind with the conviction required for mastery. The individual who achieves greatness is the one who consistently refuses to yield internally, who insists on dominance over every thought, every feeling, every reaction, until action is a natural extension of unwavering belief. Faith is not a static possession. It is an active, evolving force, strengthened through repeated confrontation with resistance, doubt, and fear. Its power is magnified by discipline, imagination, decision, and persistence, creating a latticework of internal law that directs external results. Hidden potential, though dormant, responds instantly to this architecture, emerging in proportion to the intensity and consistency of belief. The world may not reward hope. It will not bend to mere desire. It responds to the internal condition of the mind, to the structure of thought and emotion forged through deliberate application of invisible principles. Ask yourself now, have I faced my fears as resolutely as I have dreamed of success? Have I trained my imagination to solve, to anticipate, to construct, guided by belief? Have I exercised decision, persistence, and discipline with unwavering consistency, or have I allowed the chaos of doubt to erode the foundation upon which potential could rise? The answer defines not only your next step, but the alignment of invisible forces that govern your destiny. To master faith is to master the self. To master the self is to awaken hidden potentia. And in that awakening, life itself bends to the will of thought, belief, and relentless purpose. Every individual who achieves greatness understands a truth that is invisible to the masses. Success is first an internal phenomenon. The world responds only after the mind has decided, imagined, and acted with unwavering certainty. Hidden potential exists in every human being, a reservoir of power, creativity, and insight that remains untapped until the mind recognizes its capacity and commands it into motion. Faith is the key that unlocks this latent force, but the unlocking is never automatic. It requires deliberate cultivation, continuous alignment, and the intelligent orchestration of the inner faculties: desire, imagination, self-discipline, persistence, and decision. Definiteness of purpose is the anchor of this process. To wander aimlessly through life, hoping that potential will reveal itself, is to court frustration and stagnation. A clear, burning purpose channels thought, focuses energy, and directs the unseen forces that govern success. Without purpose, faith becomes diffuse, imagination scattered, persistence weakened, and action diluted. Purpose is the compass that directs belief toward measurable outcomes, ensuring that the invisible energy of the mind converges on a specific target. The individual who has discovered definiteness of purpose is armed with clarity, conviction, and the capacity to act decisively even in the face of adversity. Yet purpose alone is insufficient. It is desire intensified by faith that fuels the mental engine. Desire without belief is wishful thinking. Belief without desire is sterile. The two must coexist, intertwined, each reinforcing the other. Desire ignites the imagination, and faith fuels the persistence needed to convert vision into reality. Consider the mind as a forge. Desire is the raw ore, faith the fire, and disciplined thought the hammer that shapes raw potential into tangible achievement. Each step taken in alignment with purpose, each act of persistent effort, each reinforcement of belief through autosuggestion strengthens the mental architecture, preparing it to produce results that might have seemed impossible at the outset. The power of imagination cannot be overstated. Many dismiss imagination as a fanciful, intangible faculty, yet it is the workshop of reality, the laboratory in which every achievement is first conceived. When guided by faith, imagination becomes precise, disciplined, and strategic. The mind rehearses success before it manifests externally, anticipating obstacles, devising solutions, and constructing scenarios that align thought with desired outcomes. The individual who imagines with belief sees possibilities invisible to others, recognizes opportunities unnoticed by the untrained eye, and approaches challenges not as threats but as instruments to exercise mastery over circumstance. Imagination, under the control of faith and purpose, transforms the abstract into the actionable. Faith, however, demands constant reinforcement. The mind, unprotected, is subject to erosion from doubt, criticism, and negative influence. Daily practice of autosuggestion, the deliberate repetition of affirmations, the conscious visualization of desired outcomes, and the internalization of belief fortifies faith against intrusion. Every phrase spoken with conviction, every thought nurtured with emotion, impresses upon the subconscious a certainty that shapes perception, decision-making, and behavior. Doubt can be temporary, fear can be resisted, hesitation can be overcome, but only if the internal conditioning of faith is maintained with rigor. This is not optional, it is foundational. Hidden potential cannot emerge from a mind fractured by disbelief. Persistence remains the engine that sustains faith over time. Life will present challenges, setbacks, and opposition. The unprepared mind will interpret adversity as evidence of inadequacy or impossibility. The disciplined mind interprets it as a test, an opportunity to refine strategy, strengthen resolve, and reinforce internal alignment. Faith alone does not guarantee results. Persistent action guided by belief and disciplined thought is required to convert the invisible potential within into external achievement. Persistence is the bridge between conception and manifestation, the proof that belief is not abstract, but operational. Every obstacle endured, every difficulty confronted, every temporary failure absorbed without surrender strengthens the lattice of internal power. Self-discipline, the unseen regulator, governs the interaction of all other faculties. Without it, imagination becomes distraction, desire becomes indulgence, persistence becomes erratic, and faith is easily corroded by external influence. Discipline ensures that thought, emotion, and action are harmonized, aligned with purpose, and resilient against interruption. It is through discipline that the mind maintains clarity in chaos, decisiveness in uncertainty, and consistency in the execution of strategy. Every habit, every ritual, every controlled thought reinforces the architecture of potential, ensuring that the latent capabilities within are available to be directed consciously rather than dissipated unconsciously. The mastery of fear continues to be central. Fear is not merely an emotional inconvenience, it is a direct impediment to potential. Each act of courage, small or large, imprints upon the subconscious the expectation that adversity is to be met with deliberate action, not surrender. The mind learns through repetition that it can act decisively despite uncertainty. Each confrontation with fear expands the domain of belief, strengthens faith, and unlocks layers of latent capability previously inaccessible. The individual who conquers fear repeatedly becomes increasingly impervious to hesitation, increasingly capable of sustaining effort in alignment with purpose, and increasingly able to perceive. E. Opportunity where others perceive impossibility. Faith also interacts with the invisible forces that shape destiny. These forces, impartial and consistent, respond to the internal state of the mind. Thoughts impressed upon the subconscious through belief, disciplined action, and repeated visualization begin to orchestrate external circumstances. Opportunity aligns, resources emerge, and connections appear not by chance, but by the consistent resonance of thought, emotion, and action calibrated to purpose. Hidden potential is not dormant because it is weak. It is dormant because the mind has yet to align internal forces with external conditions. When faith is cultivated and maintained, the unseen becomes instrumental, bending circumstances to the trajectory of determined thought. The role of decision in this process cannot be overstated. Indecision is a silent killer, eroding faith, undermining persistence, and amplifying fear. Decisive action signals to the subconscious that purpose is absolute and unwavering, ensuring that mental energy is focused, consistent, and directed. Every choice reinforces or diminishes potential. The individual who trains himself to decide promptly, act consistently, and maintain alignment of belief and purpose cultivates a mind that commands reality rather than reacting to it. Hidden potential thrives in the decisive mind, it withers in the hesitant one. As you contemplate your own trajectory, recognize that hidden potential is not unlocked by hope, talent, or circumstance. It is unlocked by deliberate mastery of the mind. Faith guides thought, desire fuels belief, imagination constructs the pathway, persistence sustains action, discipline ensures alignment, decision channels energy, and courage neutralizes fear. Each of these forces operates internally, invisible to the casual observer, yet their combined effect manifests externally in the form of achievement, influence, and mastery over circumstance. The individual who grasps this truth is no longer at the mercy of chance. He becomes an architect of destiny, constructing reality from the raw material of thought and belief. The question that defines this moment is simple, yet profound. Have you aligned these forces within yourself, or have you allowed distraction, doubt, and fear to govern the invisible processes of your mind? The difference between stagnation and achievement lies not in external conditions, but in internal mastery. To unlock hidden potential, to convert latent capability into visible, measurable results, requires nothing less than total command over your beliefs, thoughts, and actions. There is no substitute, no shortcut, and no external force that can replace this internal alignment. The individual who embraces this truth steps into the realm of extraordinary accomplishment, commanding life itself through the disciplined application of faith, imagination, persistence, decision, and self-mastery. Every thought, every feeling, every moment of hesitation or conviction is shaping the architecture of your destiny. Hidden potential is not a vague abstraction. It is a tangible force waiting for conscious direction. To ignore it is to allow the currents of fear, doubt, and indecision to dominate your trajectory. The mind is not a passive instrument, it is a generator of reality, and faith is the command that sets it into motion. Yet few exercise this power with deliberate awareness. Most wander through life, reacting to circumstances, yielding to external pressures, leaving their latent capability buried beneath layers of distraction, skepticism, and surrender. To unlock your potential, you must recognize the totality of internal control required. This is not a practice of convenience. It is a campaign of relentless mental discipline, conscious alignment, and deliberate action. The individual who achieves extraordinary results does so because he has forged an internal alliance between belief, desire, and action. Desire ignites the engine of the mind, but it is faith that fuels it, imagination that charts its course, persistence that drives it through obstacles, and discipline that ensures it maintains direction. To neglect any of these forces is to weaken the structure, to invite failure into the gaps left unprotected. The mind functions as a coherent system. Thoughts shape emotions, emotions drive action, and repeated action impresses outcomes upon the external world. Faith is the operating principle, the force that orders the system and synchronizes its functions. Without it, potential remains idle. With it, the latent capacity within you becomes visible, formidable, unstoppable. Consider the consequences of doubt and indecision. Every moment of hesitation reinforces the subconscious pattern of inaction. Every surrender to fear strengthens its grip. Every thought of inadequacy, repeated in silence or spoken aloud, becomes a chain that binds potential. The mind is indifferent to excuses. It responds to direction, alignment, and the intensity of belief. Faith is not a suggestion to the subconscious, it is an imperative. Repetition, emotion, and visualization reinforce this command, forging certainty where hesitation once existed. The disciplined mind does not merely hope, it instructs, commands, and demands the realization of potential. Persistence, when anchored in faith and fortified by discipline, transforms temporary setbacks into strategic advantages. Failure is no longer a signal of incapacity, but a test of alignment, an opportunity to adjust tactics, to refine imagination, to reinforce belief. The persistent mind evaluates obstacles with precision, converts adversity into insight, and continues its course with unwavering commitment. To those who lack persistence, temporary failure is catastrophic. To those who cultivate it, every challenge is a teacher, every difficulty a proving ground. Faith ensures the mind interprets setbacks correctly. Persistence ensures that it continues. And discipline ensures that each action maintains direction toward purpose. The mastery of fear remains central to this process. Fear is the invisible gatekeeper that guards every threshold of potential. To act in spite of fear is to send a signal to the subconscious that uncertainty cannot control the mind. Each confrontation strengthens the neural pathways of courage, reinforcing the mind's capacity to act decisively, maintain focus, and sustain belief under pressure. The individual who allows fear to dictate action, even subtly, forfeits not just opportunity, but the internal authority required to direct potential. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the conscious choice to act in alignment with purpose despite its presence. Faith is the guiding principle, persistence the engine, and courage the enforcer that ensures alignment between thought and action. Decision, exercised with clarity and resolve, consolidates the work of faith, desire, imagination, persistence, and discipline. Indecision fractures the mind, disperses energy, and invites external forces to dictate outcomes. Decisive action communicates certainty to the subconscious, reinforces belief, and aligns invisible forces toward achievement. The individual who masters the art of decision converts potential into reality. The one who vacillates allows potential to dissipate. Napoleon Hill's insight is absolute. The capacity to decide promptly and act resolutely is among the most critical determinants of success. Hidden potential thrives in a decisive mind, withers in hesitation, and remains invisible until conviction is impressed upon thought and behavior consistently over time. Faith also cultivates resilience. Life will present chaos, unexpected challenges, and temporary defeat. The resilient mind interprets these not as punishments, but as mechanisms for growth, as signals to refine alignment, strengthen belief, and exercise persistence. Resilience is a product of faith internalized, discipline thought applied, and courage reinforced. The individual who endures, who maintains purpose and conviction despite adversity, extracts from circumstance lessons invisible to those who surrender. Hidden potential reveals itself only to those who persevere long enough for effort to meet opportunity, and effort alone is insufficient without the mental and emotional alignment that faith provides. The law of the invisible forces is exacting. The mind, impressed with faith and aligned with purpose, acts as a conductor of circumstance, orchestrating outcomes that reflect internal reality. Thought repeated with certainty becomes fact. Belief reinforced with emotion becomes command. Action applied with discipline produces results. Opportunity appears in response to alignment. Resources emerge in proportion to readiness, and external conditions yield to the architecture of thought. The individual who masters these principles does not rely on luck. He relies on law, harnessing the unseen currents that shape success. Hidden potential is the raw material. Faith, persistence, decision, imagination, and discipline are the tools that convert it into reality. Reflect now on the consequences of neglect. A mind untrained in faith, unpracticed in discipline, hesitant in decision, fearful in action, scattered in imagination, and lacking persistent effort will leave potential dormant, invisible, and unfulfilled. The world is indifferent to talent alone. It is neutral to desire unsupported by belief. Achievement is reserved for the mind that has commanded itself, disciplined its faculties, and acted decisively under the guidance of unwavering faith. Every moment spent surrendering to doubt, hesitation, or fear diminishes the opportunity to impress the subconscious with conviction, weakening the bridge between latent capacity and visible success. Your hidden potential is not a gift to be stumbled upon. It is a force to be awakened, trained, and directed. It demands your constant attention, deliberate cultivation, and the relentless application of mental law. Faith is the spark. Desire is the fuel. Imagination charts the course. Persistence drives the engine. Self-discipline maintains alignment. Decision consolidates the effort, and courage enforces action. Each principle operates in concert, producing results proportional to intensity, consistency, and internal coherence. The individual who internalizes these truths commands not only potential, but circumstance itself. Ask yourself, have I trained my mind to align belief with purpose, to persist despite obstacles, to act decisively, to engage imagination strategically, to cultivate discipline rigorously, and to confront fear courageously? Or have I allowed distraction, hesitation, and doubt to erode the foundations of my hidden potential? Every moment of inaction, every thought of uncertainty, every surrender to fear weakens the force that could otherwise transform my life. To awaken potential is to recognize that the battle is internal first. Mastery begins within, and from that foundation, external achievement follows inevitably. Now, at this precipice of understanding, ask yourself, will you allow the silent forces within your mind to remain dormant, or will you seize control of the unseen currents that dictate your destiny? The answer is not theoretical, not sentimental. It is absolute, irrevocable, and deconsequential. Every success you admire, every life you envy, every achievement that seems effortless to the observer is the visible manifestation of invisible mastery. Faith applied, desire intensified, imagination disciplined, persistence sustained, decision uncompromising, self-control absolute, and fear neutralized. To awaken hidden potential, to command your own life, you must internalize this principle. Nothing external can compel success that the mind has not already ordained. The battlefield is within, and it demands relentless vigilance. Every hesitation you allow, every concession to fear, every indulgence of doubt is a surrender to forces that would see your potential remain buried. You must act as a general commanding an army that cannot disobey, a sculptor shaping material that yields only to certainty, a conductor directing an orchestra in which every instrument responds instantly to the will of the mind. Faith is the lever, thought, desire, and action are the fulcrum, the subconscious is the machine. Align them, energize them, and life itself bends beneath your command. Fail to align them, and even brilliance, talent, or opportunity will evaporate, wasted on indecision, fear, and distraction. Understand this clearly. Faith is not passive. It is a declaration, an unyielding command, a refusal to negotiate with doubt. It is forged in repetition, reinforced through disciplined thought, and solidified in action. To doubt is to yield, to hesitate is to weaken. To act decisively in alignment with purpose is to assert sovereignty over reality itself. Hidden potential is dormant in those who tolerate uncertainty, flounder in fear, or accept delay. It awakens only in the mind trained to believe absolutely, to act unerringly, and to persist despite all evidence to the contrary. The laws governing achievement are impartial, indifferent, unrelenting, and they respond precisely to the state of your inner mind. Persistence is the engine, but faith is the fuel. Every day that you practice alignment through mental rehearsal, autosuggestion, disciplined decision, and courageous action, you impress upon the subconscious a certainty that shapes thought, emotion, and circumstance. You are creating a resonance, an invisible architecture of mental law that draws opportunity, resources, and support into your orbit. The forces of the universe do not conspire against you, but they also do not bend to hope alone. They respond to intensity, consistency, and conviction. Your hidden potential is a force of nature waiting for recognition. It will not awaken in the absence of deliberate cultivation, unwavering belief, and disciplined action. Decision is the amplifier of faith. Indecision fractures energy, multiplies fear, and dissipates potential. To decide promptly, to act without hesitation, to pursue purpose with relentless focus, is to broadcast to the subconscious, to the unseen forces that govern outcomes, and to the world itself, that your destiny is non-negotiable. Each deliberate choice, each committed action, each refusal to waver reinforces the invisible lattice that converts latent capability into tangible achievement. The individual who masters decision conquers time, circumstance, and resistance. The individual who vacillates is left at the mercy of forces beyond control. Imagine now the power you have neglected, the energy within your mind, unshaped, untapped, and waiting for direction. Every habit, every thought pattern, every fear tolerated, every opportunity ignored has compounded the suppression of your potential. Yet this moment is decisive. Faith, desire, imagination, persistence, discipline, decision, and courage converge here and now. You can choose to continue as you have, drifting with circumstance, or you can command your inner faculties with authority, impress your subconscious with certainty, and act with relentless, focused effort. The laws that govern achievement are impartial. They reward only those who internalize, apply, and maintain them without compromise. Your hidden potential is not distant. It is not a gift of the fortunate. It is a force within you, as real and potent as any external tool or opportunity, waiting only for activation. Activation requires courage, the courage to act decisively, the courage to reject excuses, the courage to confront fear, the courage to persist when results are not immediate, the courage to discipline your thoughts, to visualize with intensity, and to believe with unwavering certainty. Nothing external can substitute for this internal conquest. No mentor, no circumstance, no moment of luck will awaken potential for you. It is your responsibility, absolute, non-negotiable. So hear this now, and let it resonate in every corner of your mind. Do not wait. Do not delay. Do not hope passively for opportunity to find you. Command it, conquer it, seize it with the full force of your belief, your discipline, your persistence, and your courage. Commit to the daily practice of aligning every thought, every emotion, every action with the law of faith and purpose. Press forward relentlessly in the face of fear, doubt, and temporary defeat. Every moment you hesitate, potential waits. Every moment you act, it awakens. The choice is yours, but the consequences are absolute. You are the architect of your life. You are the master of your destiny. You are the conductor of the invisible forces that determine outcome. Your hidden potential is a weapon, a treasure, and a force of transformation. It cannot remain dormant if you refuse to allow it. The world, indifferent though it may seem, will respond to the alignment you create within. It is time to command your mind. It is time to conquer your fears. It is time to act decisively, persist relentlessly, and believe absolutely. The path to achievement lies not in chance, not in talent, not in circumstance, but in the deliberate mastery of yourself. Now, rise and claim it. Claim your purpose with unflinching certainty. Act with unwavering faith. Persist without hesitation. Discipline your mind without compromise. Visualize with precision. Decide with authority. Confront fear without surrender. Align every thought, every emotion, every action with the invisible laws that govern success. Do not delay, do not doubt, do not falter. The entirety of your potential waits within, and it will respond only to the one force capable of awakening it, your absolute, unshakable, relentless faith. The time is now. The responsibility is yours. Hidden potential must be activated or it remains unrealized. Act, believe, and persist with the full force of your mind. Seize control, command your destiny, and let the world bear witness to the power of a mind fully aligned, fully disciplined, and fully committed. There is no alternative, there is no excuse, there is no delay. This is the moment. Your life, your purpose, your hidden potential demand it. Rise, act, and become the master of everything you are capable of achieving